Hi, everybody. Oh, wow. Hi. Oh, goodness. All right, I'm gonna go put my dog outside. I'll be back. Hey, Mimi, I gotta make you a co-host real quick. I forgot to do it. Boop, 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 boop. BRB. Girl, good girl. Go on. Good girl. No. Hello. Hey, Mimi.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Just dropped off the kid. He's a little sick, so
Oh no.
hopefully I don't get a call from the school like, come get your snotty child.
Kid.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
I've noticed a lot of students are sick too.
'Tis the season.
Coughing in small classrooms right next to me. Oh
Directly
well.
into your eyes.
Yeah, it's true. They get really close to me and they go, "Can I talk to you? I'm sick." Like right in my face.
Back up.
You are excused.
Get out. Am I going to miss anything important? Like, I'll catch you up. Just go.
No, we never do anything important, so
Nope,
that's
never.
impossible.
Minutes. I'm going to wait
Hello,
to put up the.
everyone.
Hey, I'm going to wait to put up the attendance until we officially get started, so that everybody can actually access it.
Why no? Very good. Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm just going to get some coffee and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm accidentally signed in under a student, so I'm gonna get out, sign in as me, and come back.
I thought I recognized the name Victoria Edmonds.
Yeah, sorry.
You don't forget Victoria Edmonds. She's one of a kind.
Good morning, everyone. I feel like I've been, and I have been. I haven't been here since the August meeting.
Good morning.
We're
Good
delighted
morning.
you are back with us.
And I'm glad to be back with you too. One miss was something terrible that I didn't want to do. The last miss in last month was because I was at a conference in Seattle, but that was quite enjoyable. And that was a great opportunity that the college afforded me to go and attend a conference. So
That sounds very nice. Did you get to do anything besides go to the conference?
yeah, actually, Jen and I went out the weekend before, and we lived it up a little bit. June loves the show on HBO, White Lotus, and those are all set at Four Seasons hotels. So
Oh,
my kind of surprise, whatever, I booked us into the Four Seasons hotel for a little long weekend before the conference started. So we got to live in some hot cotton for a few days with our waterfront room and jacuzzi and the heated pool on the rooftop overlooking Puget Sound, and it was
Yeah.
it was really nice. But I kept joking about this. We stayed. The conference was at it was like at a Renaissance hotel. But if you're gonna go, I should have planned it the other way around. I should have planned it. Go to the Renaissance Hotel first, and then go to the Four Seasons, because going from the Four Seasons to the Renaissance, that was a little bit of a letdown. So
Hi, George. You look like you're freezing to death.
It's once the temperature goes below a certain level, I just wear my coat and don't come out of it. So,
You shut down.
yeah. If
My
I was in the
office-
north, if I was in the north, I'd probably have like a layer below this too. So
my office is warmer in the winter than it is in the summer.
Wow.
Same, John. I had to use a space heater all summer. My hands would go numb.
Yeah.
Typing.
Me
It was
too.
so
Me
cold.
too.
It was
In the
crazy.
summertime, I keep this coat here. I have a coat that's sort of like, hey, I just keep an extra coat that I keep here. So whenever I come here, it's 90 degrees outside. I come in my office, I'd have to put a coat on.
I did the lead series this fall, and so I was in that room in the dental building once,
Mhm.
twice a week for like 6 weeks. It was like 54 degrees in that room. They had a thermometer out because they
my God.
wanted like documentation for how cold it was in there. It was unbearable.
Wow.
this is where
It's not
I
very efficient
interject.
either.
This is where I interject and say OIT has nothing to do with that.
We know.
I'm just kidding. We used to have people tell us, the IT unit was responsible for the weirdest things sometimes. So
Mimi, does your camera go on and off all the time like mine?
No, I just did that on purpose because I was getting
Oh,
coffee.
mine does it by itself. There's a ghost. It just goes on and off. I was keeping it off this morning just because I didn't feel like moving all my stuff to the family room where I normally have it. So it's in my bedroom, and I got it blurred, but still I thought, oh, they might be able to see that.
You're not blurred though.
No,
yeah, right now you're
my
fine.
background. Oh, and I got in. Thank you for offering to help. I got my acceptance letter last week. It was so nice.
Oh,
To
congratulations.
Anderson University. I'm sorry, Mimi, in case you forgot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, well, man, it's going to be a journey. He called the guy over the program told the lady that had been helping me with the get all the stuff in that he wanted to set up a meeting with me. And so I asked her, I said, is it good or bad? And she said, I don't know. Sometimes he does it, sometimes he doesn't, depending on what's going on. And I said, okay. So I met with him, and he said, thank you, Matt, and thank you for your letter of recommendation. He said, I wanted to see if you were legit. And I said, excuse me? He
No.
said, aren't you an engineer? I said, no, I'm not an engineer. I'm a supply chain person. He says, but you're not in sociology or psychology or any of those fields. I said, no. And he said,
Oh
because
my
you're
gosh.
applying to a business program, you do know that. I said, of course I know that. And he said, but so we had to write a research paper as part of the entrance into the program. And they said the research paper could be on anything. So I took this opportunity to write about something other than business because I'm going to be doing that for the next possibly 4 years. So why not just do something different? So I did a qualitative study on empathy in toddlers. And
Nice.
he said that he just wanted to make sure I was the person that wrote the
Ah,
Well, you
I
never
said,
know
I
these
promise
days.
you. Huh?
Gotcha. Chat GPT, that's why.
I said, I promise you, I wrote it. I promise
Yeah.
you. No, no. I spent hours in the library researching how to write this, the format, all of this. Finally got it down to a science. Had to do a lot of Googling on how to do the running header and all of that. And he said it was the perfect format, the way they do it now. And I told him it took me 15 weeks to research and get all that done.
Good for you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Hey, George, just real quick, a housekeeping issue. We've got a couple other speakers that I don't think are going to go as long and have as many questions.
Mhm.
Because I'm guessing, George, they're going to have a number of questions for you.
Sure.
So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and let, I think, Gina, Terry, and then we've got Jana and Dewey from FCS. They're going to talk about the buddy program. So I'm going to let them go first because I think
Yeah, that's
that's
fine.
more informational. And then I'll let you go, which I think is going to be a bit more in depth and have more questions.
Sure. And I've got Tim Tennis here.
Great.
He's actually the one that's going to be running a lot of the project. And so I'll essentially pitch him right into the deep end of the swimming pool. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. I'm just kidding, Tim. I'm not gonna do that. But you guys know Tim, so he'll speak with me. So
Hey, everybody. Hey, how
Hello.
are you doing? Hi. All
Hi,
right.
Tammy.
Do
Hi,
we
everybody.
have, I guess,
Can you hear
Gina,
us?
we've got Gina, y'all are together, huh?
Yes, we're together. We're together.
Okay, great.
We got the whole group.
Well, I'm assuming, did you just hear, I'm going to let y'all go first.
Okay.
And then we'll have George,
Okay.
go after that.
All right. I'll start, and the reason I'm here is I'm Gina.
Oh, hold
Terry.
on. I'm sorry. We've still got a couple of minutes. And
Okay,
I'll call it
we're
George,
good.
then I'll call.
We're just
But I just wanted
excited.
to kind of housekeeping on what order we're going to go in. I'll let y'all go first, then
Gotcha.
George go. But I'll call the order, and we'll still let people have a couple more minutes to get signed in and all that. So, but thank you.
I just posted the attendance sign in Google Doc. So if y'all wouldn't mind jumping onto that and putting an X by your name to show you attended. And if you're a guest, if you wouldn't mind typing your name in down underneath, I'd appreciate it. And I can post it again for anybody. Oh, you're welcome, Amber. I can post it again for anybody who comes in a wee bit late on this chilly Friday morning.
It is a chilly morning.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I've got 9 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and call. I actually have I'm going to call the meeting to order. I actually have I'm in my office today, so I have my gavel. So we'll call our November meeting to order. And I'm very pleased to be back with you. I know I apologize for my absence the last couple times. Those were unavoidable. So who's George is jealous of the gavel. Well, here you go. So welcome everybody. And we're gonna go. We've got a pretty full agenda today. We have got. We're gonna have our George Abraham, who's gonna also be joined by Tim Tennis, will be sort of our featured speakers. We're gonna have them. They're gonna talk about the migration from Google Workspace to Microsoft. But we're going to start off.
So you got your inspection completed here for you.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I think somebody's got their is not muted. But we're going to start off with our good friends from the Student Disability Services, and I'm going to start off, and I'll let Gina Terry, who's going to talk about collegiate recovery and some reorganization at that office. So go ahead, Gina.
All right, thanks, John. I'm Gina Terry. I was former director of counseling services. Now I'm the Associate Dean of Students for CARDS, which is counseling services, our addiction recovery service, and disability services. So all of those programs currently report to me. With the reorg, with SDS, we're working on kind of cleaning up a lot of the things here. It's going to take us some time, so please be patient with us. If you have questions regarding anything related to SDS, Student Disability Services, please don't hesitate to reach out. Anything we can do to help you, that's what we're here for. I'll give you a brief little update about collegiate recovery, and then Juhi's going to talk about counseling services, and then Jana and Juhi's going to talk about the buddy program, and then we'll give you time for questions. Collegiate recovery, I'm sure many of you know we do have that program on campus. They're located in the 106 building. With that program, we focus on students that are in recovery and connecting them to resources in the community with resources on campus. One thing that we are looking at with collegiate recovery is making it more visible on campus. So hopefully coming up in the next couple semesters, you'll see us on campus more with having events and partnering with other campus organizations and things like that, just to offer events and let students know we're here and let them know about that service. With that being said, if you ever have questions about that, disability services counseling, if you want us to come out and do anything to support your students or anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out, because we'll be happy to do what we can, because we want to be more visible with all three departments on campus. So that's just a little bit of that. I'll let Juhi talk about counseling.
Hi, I'm Juhi Gore, and with the reorg, I'm now Assistant Director of Counseling Services. And just a little update, counseling it's been really busy this semester, which is a good thing. We've gone from where maybe we were scheduling students within 2-3 days to now we're looking 1 to 2 weeks out, just because we're seeing a lot more students come in. Faculty is referring more students as well, which is great. So we're still doing a lot of individual sessions. We are hopefully next semester going to be offering peer support, peer mentoring through counseling as well. And I'll kind of get into that when we talk about the buddy program. We still have Chillville, which is our relaxation room. And, it's really nice. That I think many of you know about it, but it is, there's a massage chair in that room, and it does head to toe. It's really nice. It's available to students, faculty, staff. And it's just a great way to decompress, an alternative to maybe coming and talking to someone. And, I think someone had asked before, could this room be used for other things? And other things as far as, I know we have students who might come in there and use it as a prayer room. Just maybe if there's sensory overload, we have some students who like to just come and sit in there until things calm down. Yes, come on, no one's using it right now. So it is just a nice additional resource. And, I just want to remind you guys, please utilize it, tell your students to come use it. It's just a little simple thing that might make someone's day better. And this semester we've done a couple of events. We've had World Mental Health Day, suicide awareness, and coming up this month in November, we're going to be doing cards with counselors. Maybe just a way to kind of, as we get closer to the holidays, it's a way to celebrate the holidays, but also for some students, it's not an easy time. So we want to make ourselves available on a bigger scale. We'll be having one session here on the main campus, and then we'll also be going out to the Benson campus. I think that's the 28th. We'll be at the Benson campus. That's a Tuesday. And then the 29th here. Again, just kind of being available. Students come, they make cards, talk to counselors. You know, again, just a way to put ourselves out there and let students know we're here. And that's kind of the gist of what's been going on with counseling. And
Sorry, y'all had to put somebody in the test.
Buddy program.
Yes.
Now we're gonna talk about the buddy grant.
Yes, this is a program that is kind of a cooperation between counseling services and disability services. And this was a 4DX summit meeting, actually one of those impromptu meetings that just happened due to a conversation. And the counseling services already had kind of a mentorship program going on. And so when I was talking to Juhi and Gina and Brittany, and we all kind of, you know, I had this idea about helping students with autism because they're part of one of the most vulnerable populations here at Greenville Tech, as well as when they go into the workforce, because they don't understand the social aspects. You know, they don't understand social cues. They don't understand really facial expressions, sarcasm, some those types of things. And so they end up either getting themselves into trouble or they drop out because it's just so overwhelming for them. And so we decided that we wanted to come up with a program that would help these students with college integration and just, you know, set them up so that when they actually go into the world of work, they are better prepared for what that looks like. So right now we have 3 buddy pairs, and the students are doing weekly Zoom sessions or meeting up weekly, but they meet and they discuss what's going on. In fact, we had one buddy pair go to the speed friending activity that student life. Yes. Okay. It changed. So student life had that activity, and they said they had an absolute blast at that activity. And it really got, you know, the student with autism out there, and they felt more comfortable because they had that buddy right there with them. So we are in the process of trying to pair another 2 students. And so we have the autistic student with another student, and they're there as a mentor. They'll go to, you know, like I said, different activities. We're going to try to set up workshops for the students to be able to do like mock interviews so that they're ready, like I said, for that world of work.
You're doing it for free.
Yes, and it's a totally volunteer. You know, all of our mentors are volunteers, and they're doing this because they, you know, really want to help other students. So
yeah, and you know, like Janice said, this is helpful for them when they go out into the real world, but also, you know, when they're sitting in your classrooms. I think, you know, this is also a support for them while they're here in school. And so, you know, as far as from faculty, you know, we would like, if you happen to, you know, just be able to spread the word buddy program. Maybe if you notice students who may be a good buddy, or who've expressed interest in, hey, I'd like to do something to help someone or volunteer, you know, we ask that you send them our way. Or if you notice a student who may need a buddy, you know, refer them to SDS, because to receive a buddy, you do have to be set up through the Student Disability Services office. So once they are, we can, you know, start that process. And our email, which I wish we had it to post, but it's buddies@gvltec.edu if you want to type it in. And that'll go to all of us. And so one of us will definitely reach out to you or the student.
Hey, y'all, thank you. While we've got you for a second, would it be possible to put a link to information about the buddy program, let's say in like our concourse syllabi? Or are we not really there yet? Like the program's not big enough yet to maybe support that level of or number of students who might be interested.
We could have that probably ready by spring.
Great. Okay.
So yeah, thanks for asking. We'll make sure we do that.
Fantastic. Well, that was easy. Well, thank you.
Any other questions for our friends from Student Disability Services?
I did want to say one thing though is, and I know that we had talked about this in the past, is being able to do like class visits, just to kind of say, hey, listen, we've got this program if you're interested. So.
Yeah, Mimi. Go ahead, Mimi.
Sorry. Yeah, I just was wondering about the speed friending. I didn't hear anything about that. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I believe Student Life hosted an event earlier in the semester where students could come out and kind of like speed dating, where you kind of sit across from one person, you have a minute or two to kind of get to know them and switch. So this was speed friending, so they could get to know other students on campus. And I think there was also a they could stream in, like log in virtually as well. And I think it was a hit. I think a lot of students liked it to the point where Campus Life will be hosting one more.
Yes.
And they'll do it in the daytime because I believe this one was in the evening. And so they're going to do it again, possibly, I would think, in the spring.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But this was something for all students.
This for all students.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Very good. Any other questions?
I think we have some in the chat.
Okay.
1 second. Okay. So lots of appreciative notes here. Let's see. Art Cartwright wants to know if you could repeat the name of the new consolidated office. I actually would appreciate that for the minutes too. It was Carves.
Okay, sorry about that. Jana had us muted. It is cards. In the Dean of Students area, she has the Dean of Students, and then she has 2 associate Dean of Students now. The other one will handle like Title IX and stuff like that. My job is the associate Dean of Students for CARDS, CARDS, and that is counseling, the addiction recovery program and disability services.
Okay. That's a good acronym.
All right. Any other questions? Well, we appreciate again and sort of echoing the several things in the chat, expressing our appreciation for everything that you do at Student Disability Services for our students.
Thank you for having us, and if we can support you guys in any way, let us know. That's what we're here for.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, at this point, we're going to turn to George Abraham, who's the GTC Chief Information Officer, and he's going to discuss sort of our transition from Google Workspace to Microsoft 365.
Thanks, John. There's actually a couple of things I wouldn't mind, giving information about. But I wonder who's the host for the meeting. Is it possible for me to share my screen at all? And I'll wait for you to do that while I start speaking. So I'm here. Go ahead.
I believe we have it set up for a share. So
it says disabled participant screen sharing.
I think Liz.
I just made him co-host. George, you should be able to.
I'm good now.
Okay, great.
This is just a simple one slider, so just so that it's there for everybody to keep an eye on. What we're trying to do is essentially give you like 3 different topics here. The one is planning stages, what's happening, like as far as what we're planning for the future. And then immediately in the next month or two, here are the two things that are going to happen as far as a couple of our projects. So let me just dive into that a little bit, and I'll introduce my my co-conspirator in this, Tim Tennis. He's the director for infrastructure support services here at OIT and GTC, and his staff is actually responsible for a couple of these things. And so he's really the person to ask a lot of these questions and give you the bones of the details. So let me just go that first one. We're in the planning stages of this project, where we are trying to get a lot of the employees away from Google Workspace into Microsoft 365. And there's a huge set of reasons for that, primarily being kind of not splitting our attention between two different systems, and to have the staff all in one system makes support easier, obviously. But also when new staff come in, it's really hard for them to understand why we are on two different sets of email, and why they have to use two different sets of collaboration suites. So we're trying to consolidate that into one. Just as a slight information to that, the plan is also to move students over to Microsoft 365 in the coming future. So they will also move from Google Workspace to Microsoft 365. One of the main reasons that we are trying to, like open this right now is because as the number of systems that we have that we are maintaining kind of increase on a pretty much on a monthly basis now, we're trying to decrease the amount of support issues that we have, and this is one of the main reasons to do that. Like I said, this is in the planning stages, and so absolutely feel free to ask us questions, because some of those questions and the answers to some of those questions will obviously guide where this project is going. So Tim's literally he just has started a document about this. So at some point we will actually get a plan onto it. We'll actually start communicating that, and that'll go out to the college on a regular basis. So if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to put them in the chat, or feel free to ask those questions later. The second project that I'm going to talk about this is actually happening fairly immediately. A lot of you have heard about multi-factor authentication, and if you haven't, on Monday, the success check, I'm going to be actually speaking about multi-factor authentication quite a lot. So feel free to come on there to hear more about it. But we're going to try and roll out multi-factor authentication by the end of this month. And the reason why we are kind of accelerating that a little bit, we always had a plan to roll that out. If you've been listening to us talk about this, OIT talk about this in the last couple of months, we've been trying to figure this project out. But the reason we're trying to do it very quickly now is because our cyber insurance the renewal has actually said, hey, we're going to actually penalize you for not having multi-factor rolled out. And so they're reducing the amount of money in case we ever have a cyber security incident. They're reducing the amount of money they will pay out if we ever have that, if we don't have this rolled out. So that's a huge impetus for us to roll this out very quickly. And so, November 30th is the date for that. And then the last project, this one's slightly different. You've noticed that a lot of the systems that you have around campus that you're using around GTC, when you log in, it usually goes to a single sign-on where you enter in your GTC username and password. Well, Google's Workspace never had that. And so this is something that we're going to add to Google Workspace right away. So in that in-between time from now until when we move away from Google Workspace to Microsoft 365, we still want to secure it. And so single sign-on is a good way to secure it so that you're not entering into different usernames and passwords. So, again, just to let's kind of go back to that planning stages. It's a bigger project, moving employees from Google Workspace to 365. The immediate stage within this month, we'll be rolling out multi-factor authentication. And then a slightly longer project, we'll be adding single sign-on to Google Workspace. I'm going to go over to the chat and see if there's any questions there. What will be the process of logging in? So the process for logging in is going to be very similar to what you have right now. Multi-factor essentially means 2 factors or more. of logging in. And you've probably seen this when you've logged into like your financial banking websites, where after you put in your username and password, it then sends you a code to your phone. And using that code, you put that code back in the bank website, and that's how you get in. That's two factors, right? So that's essentially what we're going to do. In our case, it won't be a message sent to your phone. It'll be an app on your phone, the Microsoft Authenticator app. And so once you put in your username and password, you look up the Microsoft Authenticator app. There'll be a number on that. You take that number and you put it into the website, and that's how you would log in. So it's an additional step when you log in to any of our systems. And feel free to ask me more questions about that too. I fully understand the advantages of being on one system instead of a split between Google and Microsoft. Can you walk us through the decision to prioritize Microsoft over Google? I know many of my faculty colleagues are much more familiar with Google and its products. That's a very good question. And in a previous job, we actually went the other way, where because the majority of the folks were on Google, we actually moved from Microsoft over to Google. In our case, one of the big things that makes a difference in our case is the fact that most of our staff business is actually done on the Microsoft environment, and most of our systems in the current future, like moving from Colleague, for example, to the One Campus System Anthology, that's all on the Microsoft environment. We are standardizing on that platform because that's where we're going to store most of our data, our files, our systems. So that's one of the main reasons we are prioritizing Microsoft over Google. Having Google Microsoft licensing also makes it easier for us to get a whole bunch of other software inside that bundle. It really makes it easy for us to, and to be frank, cheaper for us to have Microsoft over Google at this point. Departmental Gmail accounts, how will these be addressed? As we use those mostly for sharing extremely large files for student use organized by course. And I can expand upon this live or later if needed. I actually understand that one. The idea will be to start using OneDrive for the future. But OneDrive and Google Drive should have theoretically the same kinds of use cases. But I think that's definitely something for you to bring up to see addressed when we're in the planning stages of this project. It sounds like this makes the cell phone a single point of failure. What will be the backup process? Tim can probably answer this better than I do, but from what I've seen in other units, when, for example, you break your cell phone or you lose your cell phone, you basically contact the OIT help folks, and then we assign you a temporary code. I believe that's the way it goes. We assign you a temporary code, and once that code, you maybe go for a week or something like that, and then once that code expires, you have to start using a phone again. Obviously, this requires back and forth communication between you and the OIT folks. Tim, you got anything on that?
Yeah, what you said is accurate. There are options, and it's available that you can have the authenticator on more than one device. And you should also be able to have it on a Windows PC. So there's multiple options there. The Windows PC, we are still testing that to make sure that works the way we believe it works.
Yep. So there's a couple of questions that are the same. So basically you will have to have your phone with you. And yes, the answer to that is yes, you will have to have your phone. That's where the Authenticator app would reside. And that's where you would require that to log in pretty much every single time. And I think the follow-up question that this will occur every time we sign in our classrooms, in our office and campus, as well as off campus. Yes, it will. Essentially, there's some level of memory it keeps. Like, for example, it's not going to keep annoying you every 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, it will.
Ours got you. We had to do it once.
Melissa, I believe
Nevins.
Hold on, excuse.
There you go. Got it.
One real quick. Just make sure you're muted if you're not speaking, because we're getting some. So I'm sorry, George. Go ahead.
That's fine. So this will occur every time you sign in, absolutely. But it's basically designed not to keep annoying you, so that it makes an issue for the sign in. Is there a workaround? I think I answered that one because you basically communicate with our help folks and then we can get you a code. What authenticator app will be used? It's the Microsoft Authenticator app. Students too, at some point in the future, we haven't really decided that, but at some point in the future, yes, students too will have multi-factor authentication. It's going to become almost like a requirement because adding one more factor to the logging in process makes it so much more easier for the bad actors to get into systems. So much more, did I say easier or harder? So much more harder for the bad actors to get into the systems. And that's the reason why, for example, our cyber insurance folks are penalizing us for it right now. If we are required to use an app on our personal phone to log in, does that make our personal phones in any way a state government tool property for the purposes of either billing, liability, or FOIA? It's a good question, actually, this one. No, I don't believe it does. I'll have to check the legalese on that one. I believe if you're using an authenticator app, all it is giving you is a second factor of authentication. It's not discoverable as a device, I believe.
And we've got, I know there's some in the chat. We've got Philip with a question, his
Right.
hand up. We wanted to grab him and then we go back to the chat.
Sure. Go ahead, Phil.
You knew I was going to ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm used to authenticator apps and I'm used to doing this on banking and other stuff. So that's nothing new to me. I guess the only question is, I know on some sites it will hold the security credentials for a day or 30 days. So will that be the case for, say, your work laptops, or will it always ask for that new token every time you log in?
What do you think, Tim?
It's 24 hours currently. So when you authenticate to the My Apps portal, you'll be required to do multi-factor, and then you shouldn't be required for 24 hours.
All right, thank you.
The classroom logins will be tough. That's going to be interesting. I think one of the things we need to do is you will have a period of time between now and the end of this month to sort of kind of test that in the classrooms. So please do take the advantage of that time to test that. And we'll be obviously sending out messaging about this from next week onwards. How will that work for students when they log in to take tests? Very similar to how they're taking tests right now, actually. All it is an addition of one more factor to their logging in. So things like identifying the light bulb are not enough. That one, the identifying the light bulb is actually more to distinguish between humans and bots. It's actually got nothing much to do with authenticating a human person.
Okay, thank you.
The question here is, but they're not allowed to have their phones. That's a good question. I don't know yet how we will get past that. Right now, at least for the time being, for the November 30th deadline, we are only worried about employees. So we'll worry about the students when we get into the planning stages for that one. That one seems to be the students, involving them in multi-factor authentication will probably be a larger project. So you can't take that very lightly. I think I got through all the questions. Wow. Any questions people want to ask straight up? For multi-factor, we will consider Respondus lockdown browser. Wait, are you asking me that or telling me that, Phil?
If there's multi-factor and they're using that in place of their browser when they say take tests and stuff, that'll have to be something that'll have to be considered, as long as
I think so. The only thing there I would say is I don't see the multi-factor intruding into the usage for that one because they'll already have logged in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just know from Respondus, it basically replaces the browser. So when they log into the school system, they're using that instead of another browser. So I wondered how that would be affected.
So if I'm the workflow right now, and again, like this is something obviously for students, we're not worrying about them right now. But from what I understand, the workflow of getting into Respondus is you would first get into Blackboard and then you would launch a Respondus session. I think so. So, for them, the login's already done. They would not need their phone after that, is what I'm saying.
George, one thing we should clarify is that this multi-factor will apply to the Office 365 suite. It doesn't apply to logging into the
Not yet.
PC, your
Mhm.
office, or classroom at this point. This is when you go to myapps.microsoft.com and log in. That's the where this multi-factor will apply in this initial phase.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think there's been a couple, the testing center issue with the students not being able to bring in a phone.
I understand that, but I think
Yeah.
what we're saying is like right now, that's not the students doing multi-factor is not something, a project that we're looking at right now. Does that make sense, Amber?
Okay.
Cool.
And then I think Mimi has her hand up there.
Yeah, I was wondering, you said it would have some memory capabilities. So if you go into your classroom, log in, but then the next time, then another teacher comes, they log in, but you're not, so then you can't, it's like it is now. You'd have to bring your phone and log in again, or does that device, it doesn't remember you? And does it?
Go ahead, Tim.
If you're using the same web browser, when you go back in there, one, you need to make sure you do log out of that computer. And so once you've logged out, it should require you to do multi-factor again. You wouldn't want to leave the computer logged in
Right.
the web browser while you're gone. So it
Okay, I guess
should require that multi-factor, or somebody could come in and wouldn't need the multi-factor to access your information. So it would somewhat circumvent. It's a little different when it's, in your office, it's your laptop and you have control of that, and you're leaving the browser logged in. That's where that 24 hours applies. If you don't log out of the system.
Got it.
I see that the MFA project has totally derailed the questions from the transition of employees from Google to Microsoft. So maybe my evil plan was achieved. I'm just kidding.
I think we have a question from Melissa there.
Sounds similar to the USC's MF system. As a student, we select to approve from an app, may approve through a phone call, or maybe an email option when logging into MS365 and Blackboard. But we only have to refresh the MF every so many days, or when the browser is closed or reopened. Yeah, different systems are going to behave differently. We are probably going to be a little bit more conservative, at least in the initial stages. And then as we watch the system and figure out how it works best for our folks, we might tweak it.
Well, and just to clarify, this is from a student side, so it probably is a little bit more stricter on the faculty end.
Yeah. Yep. For migration, will we keep the first dot last at Gvil Tech or migrate to using AD login username? Tim?
So you're talking about faculty there, I believe, Philip, faculty and staff. So your email, all employees' email is migrated to Microsoft 365. That's what we completed a little while back. So that email is going to stay. What you won't have as far as the migrating away from Google, you won't have that second email address. You employees, that one won't exist. You will just have your primary first dot last email address. Students, their email addresses will remain the same, but they'll move over. And the reason for that, it's a technical issue. We can't give you two email addresses in the Microsoft suite. It doesn't allow for that. You get one email address.
Roughly how much time do we have, for those of us who use Google Docs a lot, using it right now to do the minutes and the attendance, how much time roughly do we have to start moving everything over so we don't lose all our stuff?
Tim?
What we've talked, we don't have a set date yet, but what we've talked around loosely is 12 to 18 months is when we would kind of look at that. What we are asking you to do is start looking at the 365 suite and seeing where you can move your data to and that kind of thing, so that, you know, when we do communicate it and say it's 12 months from now, you know, you've smoothed that process out. You already know how you're going to handle it, that kind of thing. Or you've already moved over and you're using parts of the 365 suite. On that cutover date, the real piece that has to move whenever that date is the email address. Those student email addresses can only live in one place, and we'll, you know, so that's kind of the biggest piece in that cutover.
Yeah. Are there strategies for, I mean, is to make it as simple as possible to transition? Are there sort of and maybe this would be a subject of a professional development training, you know, how is it that we're going to do this transition? Where do things live? You know, if something lives in Google Docs, where is it going to live in the new system? Could you expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, we were actually working with the CPE folks to develop kind of, you know, some worksheets that say, you know, here's the best way to do X, Y, Z in the transition. And I see a couple of questions, you know, asking about training in MS 365 as well. Percipio is chock full of the PD for Me website is chock full of those kinds of trainings. So we're going to try and curate some kind of playlist of trainings that allows you folks to get in there and work with those tools on a regular basis.
Would a crosswalk kind of diagram help any, you know, something that maps, here's the Google app, here's the 365, you know, potential solution?
Yeah. Great. Other questions?
I'm looking at here. How will we migrate contacts from Google to our existing Outlook? That might be a little bit more of a in-depth answer to that one, but I mean, literally, I'm going to have to Google that one before I answer that one. Philip says, I would be happy to be a beta tester for using OneDrive for a department course share. Good point. We are still in the beginning stages of figuring out what drives look like as far as you know, for department and course shares. It might be that a Microsoft team might be the best way to do that, but I think the jury is still out on that one. Matthew, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just posted on there. It occurred to me while you're talking about faculty addresses, if we're designing the system now, is it possible to create club specific or duty specific faculty email so that if I'm the advisor for a student club now and transfer that to another faculty member, we could just move that account so that students from the club aren't still emailing me because they saw an old flyer that's still on campus?
Yeah. Tim? I think basically aliases, right?
There we can do aliases. There are also options to do what's called email enabled distribution group. So you could have those emails, you know, you would assign that group would be named and have the email address that you want it to be called. And then members of that group can receive that email. And that way it's not changing an alias from individual to individual. It could come to multiples, or if you just want it to one, we just change who the member of that group is. And it's a pretty simple management process.
I would go ahead and start that process right now, Matthew, just go ahead and send in a ticket so that, you know, we can figure out the best way to do that. There's multiple ways of solving that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I just want to make sure we're thinking about that. Just as we have a fresh start to try and create a new system, it might be something that would be helpful down the road. Thank you.
Yep. I recommend training assistants to help pulling videos off YouTube to Yuja. Okay, so that's actually a good point, because there's a ton of stuff already on YouTube that you want to move over either to Yuja, or I think Microsoft's version of YouTube is called Stream. So it's either one of those two. Lee McMinn would probably implore you folks to use UJA for course related stuff because that's really where it should be.
George, a quick question. Is this going to impact? I know that Microsoft has Teams for. Are we gonna keep with Zoom? I guess that would be my hope. But is there any thoughts of going away from that? Or like we teach in our program, we teach several, well, all of our classes that are available at least for synchronous online attendance.
I will say there's already conversations about moving off of Zoom to Teams because we're essentially paying for two software at this point. And seeing as how we are consolidating on the Microsoft platform just makes sense to put that over to Teams. But we do have to configure, and by we, I mean OIT still has to configure Teams for not just internal use, but also to allow for external use, not non-GTC folks to get in and things like that. So there's a period of time, most likely, by the way, that transition will happen the next time the Zoom renewal comes around, which would be sometime around this time next year. So I'm going to say maybe in the August to October time frame next year. So be prepared for that one too. Zoom will be dropped in favor of Teams.
And does Teams have reports that like we use, like we can pull up an attendance report? Does that have the same functionality?
Good question. I think it does. Tim, do you have any immediate answer?
I do not. We'll have to check on that to verify.
I do know that as far as the collaboration part of Teams go, there is an intriguing classroom-based team that is really cool looking. Gives you features around, here's how you can conduct your classroom inside of Teams. And I think it works very well with the way that Blackboard is set up too. So there's some research to be done in that area. Mimi asks, what is the difference between Teams and Zoom? I think the big difference is so Zoom came out, really gained its edge back in the day when the pandemic came around and people just needed something quick to jump in. And so Zoom really made its mark with its usability on that front. And then like 2 months right after that, they got hacked a couple of times, and that's when Teams kind of took over a little bit. Teams is obviously part of an enterprise wide software. And so when folks start using Teams, they find that it integrates very well with a whole bunch of other things they're doing, especially with the Microsoft 365 environment. There's obviously really well integrated chat and other functionality that you wouldn't have with Zoom. Zoom actually just started bringing that out in the last few months. And what we're seeing is that, as far as features go, there is parity meaning equality in a lot of the main features. And then depending on what's important to you, either Zoom is better at something or Teams is better at something. In our case, we're finding that the one of the biggest plus points is obviously Zoom costs so much more than just getting Teams for us. So money always will talk in situations like that. Catherine says, I think Teams is easier and more functional. Philip says Teams does have reporting. Thanks, Philip. Thanks for confirming that. Remember that academics needs to be taken into account. Just because the staff prefers Teams, it does not mean that it supports instruction. I think the main thing I'll say there is what can Zoom do that Teams cannot, right? So is there something that's an absolute must have, and how can we use Teams to address that? So those would be good to bring up and say, here's something that I use on a fairly regular basis, or my team uses on a fairly regular basis in Zoom, that is not replaceable by Teams. And so we'll have to take that into account. Yeah.
Okay, other questions?
And I wanted to bring that back to the whole, Google to Microsoft transition, not because I want more arrows thrown our way, but that was the main point.
Yeah. I think it'll be, because that will be especially, I don't know. It seems across the college, I'm not sure how many programs are using Zoom for synchronous instruction. I know some are, but we are heavily, literally every class that we have is either high flex, where the students have the option. So the other issue would be, it would be in terms of a time of transition, if we changed over in the middle of a semester, and this is where kind of thinking in terms of faculty, sometimes there's a disconnect. Having a transition in the middle of a semester would be very disruptive.
Right. I think a point there is nothing stops you from using Teams right now for internal communication to actually test it out. I don't believe it's easy to use Teams with your students yet until we open that up. So once we open that up, it should be easy to start testing that as well.
And George, I believe it should be available for students. We'll verify that, but
so we'll verify that.
Should be.
So pulling the plug, I guess, is not it's not as what do you call traumatic as, hey, one day you were using the system, next day you start using that system. No, there's a period of time where you can already start using Teams.
George, what we've talked about some before was Zoom wouldn't be available after summer semester because of when the renewal is due.
That's right. That's right. You're right.
Wouldn't be available for fall semester.
Yeah, and that was something that essentially there was a discussion between, I think academics is paying for Zoom right now, and so they're trying to figure out when to stop the renewal. And yeah, that you're right, Tim. We did discuss summer being the transition period. Do the faculty have access to Teams? Yes, you do. Absolutely. Please go to myapps.microsoft.com and you should see the Teams icon there. I believe if you're using a college laptop, you should be able to use Teams. It's installed there as a software as well. I'm looking here at the questions. Zoom is a Blackboard plugin, so it's easy to use. If Teams is a Blackboard plugin, it should be easy as well. Good question. I actually don't know. So we'll talk with Lee about that one and see if the Teams can be a plugin in Blackboard.
Yeah, George, the reason we say that for academics is we had Collaborate and it was embedded because it was part of Blackboard. We switched to Zoom, they added it as one of the modules so students could just click on it. Faculty just click on it, it would go into their scheduled meetings for classes. So if Teams can be integrated, it's probably going to be a much easier sell to just migrate. If you have to set up Teams separate for class scheduling, I think it'll be a little bit more difficult.
Teams does integrate. We've talked with Lee McMahon about that, and he's looked at it. He was going to put it in his test system and do some evaluation. I don't know if that's been done for sure yet. But one of the concerns was he didn't want to cause confusion. Wasn't sure how having two systems integrated with Blackboard would work out and that kind of thing. It didn't want to cause y'all confusion. So, that there is an integration point there. The evaluation is from Lee McMahon's side is where are the shortcomings? What doesn't integrate the same or doesn't work the same?
Mimi says, I just want to make sure that we can set up meetings with students easily, follow a calendar for meetings, and make sure that students can easily use it. You should be able to do the exact same things that you're doing with Zoom right now with Teams, and they should not notice a difference other than what the link says. Do faculty have access to Teams? Yes, absolutely. I thought, wait, am I going back to that question by mistake? Yeah, I think I am. I see a link to Teams and Outlook. What happens if I click that? Tim, tell them. It's going to explode, isn't it?
No, it should just launch. The best way to you have some of the suite is installed on your PC, but you can see the full suite if you go to the My Apps portal, click the little 9-dot icon up in the left upper corner, and you can see a list of apps, and then if you it gives you options to drill in to see the full suite that you have access to. So going in there and looking around and playing with them would be a good way to see what's available.
And just for kicks, I'm gonna write this as well, a topic too, because it did turn into a topic. But let me ask another question here. Are adjuncts issued laptops? Man, that's a touchy question. I'm just kidding. So I think Liz already answered that. No, but they'll have the same access to Teams because they've got access to my apps through GTC for me. That's correct. Melissa asks, can we create a team like a department group in Teams or our own, or does someone have to do that? Very good question, Melissa. You can go ahead and create your own teams inside of Microsoft Teams on your own. Nobody needs to make that for you. Now, it does lead to a larger question, should GTC already have kind of these pre-done teams? Everybody in the English department, should they have their own team? We haven't yet come up to those kinds of questions or answers, because I think that's a whole lot more planning than and we're not sure that it'll accrue the same benefits as folks that are in the English department creating their own team. So I would say if you want to go ahead and start experimenting with that, I would go ahead and start experimenting right now. Oh, there you go. Melissa says, we just have a lot of department shared docs in Google. And that's one part of, using Teams, is that you can then put it in the files section of Teams and it resides in OneDrive as part of that team. And so even if you kind of leave the college or somebody new comes into the college and they were added to that team, you don't have to add them to the files. They just automatically have access to those files. Liz says, maybe we could make teams for our subcommittees so we can get some practice. Very good, what do you call solution? Actually, OIT has been experimenting with that for the last, I'm going to say 6 months now. If you see the lists of teams and channels that we have and we use on a regular basis, it's quite extensive. And Phil says, yes, you can use Teams via the web browser. They do not need the application installed on the local computer. Cool. I'll write in here. I'm waiting for more questions, but meanwhile, I'm going to write in here immediate by summer 2024, migrating from Zoom to Teams for web conferencing.
And I'll just make an observation. This is a lot of change all at one time.
And don't forget, we're changing an ERP too.
For faculty, especially adjuncts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and it's concerning that there, I hopefully we'll have, because that's a pretty quick turnaround for as much as, if you've been using Google Docs, Google Sheets, been using all of that, as well as the one, I guess, that concerns, Zoom. We have that integrated in to, and I guess that will be able to do Blackboard, but we teach all of our classes on Zoom.
Right.
At least that's available. So
and
that's
I think what's important to note there. What's important to note there is that, again, we're not like saying, one day, boom, everything is gone, right? It's like, and then now suddenly you got to work on it. No, you have a fair amount of time from now until summer of 2024 to start working on the migration. And I think what really folks need is, here are the 10 steps to do this migration, right? So some level of help that says I'm not on my own and I can get some help actually doing it. So we'll work on that.
So I guess we've got a couple hands up here. Kathy, Catherine, would you like to go first?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, I'm guessing my department head had heard that we were migrating away from Zoom. So we've been using Microsoft Teams for a while. I promise that it is a much easier, I can't speak to integrating with Blackboard. We haven't used it with students, but we do most of our faculty meetings with Teams, and having the files there, to me, it's almost easier than using the Google Drive. So I just want to encourage everybody to start using it. And Don't be scared of it because it's a very good, I feel like I was scared of it at first, but I think once you get into it, you'll see it's very similar and it's a good platform.
Melissa?
I haven't done much exploring with Microsoft 365 yet, as you can tell probably from my questions, but I know that with Google Docs, I've used like the Google surveys to get information from students. Is there something in 365 that we can do surveys or to gather like data from the students?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of tools, and some of those are pretty powerful too. So you can use Microsoft Forms, which is a very good facsimile for what Google Forms does. You can also use a couple of other tools inside of Microsoft. It needs a little bit more of what do you call learning curve before you actually start using it. But Forms is very easy to use, very similar. I remember when Google Forms came out, it was one of the best ways to get information back from folks, and you had a Google Sheet at the back end of it. Microsoft Forms works exactly the same way. There's an Excel sheet at the back of it. And I think it even does much better branching and things like that than Google Forms. But on a very general user basis, they should be about the same.
Other questions?
Philip says we conquered Blackboard Ultra, so this should be easier. And I think that's an important point to make. I mean, like I just remember the first few months of the pandemic, how there was change like pretty much every day, right? And I think a lot of us got traumatized from that change. So this feels a lot more slower, but doesn't make it any more easier.
All right.
Thanks, Kathy. Yep. Yeah, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of these are Microsoft products. And you've been using them a fair bit of time. I think the big difference when the Google Suite first came out was that they were all online, and so collaboration was so much more easier. But I think the Microsoft products are really getting to the same parity of features.
Any other questions?
Not a question, but a comment, and I echo what Catherine is saying. We use Microsoft Teams for a lot of our stuff. Joseph got us acclimated to it really quickly and started telling us to transfer stuff. He must have knew it was coming too, because we've all started using it too. All of our documents are there and everything, so not bad.
Yep.
Just by way of, is anybody else using it to teach? I mean, are other people using? I guess, has anybody tried to use it to teach a class?
I haven't. No.
Use what to teach a class, though? So.
I'm sorry.
Zoom, are you talking about, right?
No, I mean, well, I guess first question.
I mean,
how many people are teaching by Zoom right now?
Well, Zoom
I teach every class by Zoom.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So great.
So you're asking if we're going to go to is Skype Microsoft? What's Microsoft? I can't remember.
Teams.
Oh, that's right. That's Teams is Microsoft. No, I haven't used it to teach a class, but I use it. The organization that I get my SAP material from. I'm sorry, you guys. Somebody just turned the TV on behind me, but I'm trying to turn it off. The one that we get our SAP assignments for, they use Teams for everything. So when I need to talk to them and all of that, and I haven't had any problems, but I don't know. We'll see.
But John, you make an important point, which is like, has anybody here specifically used Teams, end to end in a course, right? And no, we haven't, because we haven't really opened it out for that kind of stuff. And so that is the period from now until our transition where we will start opening that out and say, hey, start experimenting with this. And you don't need to, do it like for the entire course. Use it for one of your courses or one class in your course and see how that works. I did want to say there was one comment here. I agree that as long as faculty think that it has not been sprung on them, it'll be better received. We actually do talk about a lot of these transitions in our semesterly roadshow. It's called Connect with OIT. And we talk about, here are some of the projects coming up in the future. I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but I'm just saying attendance has been very sparse at those meetings, specifically from faculty. And that's sometimes that's because of the way the timings are for it. I feel like one thing that we can do is maybe come to these faculty senate meetings about once every semester and kind of give you the same spiel that we're giving in those Connect with OIT, and maybe that'll help as well. Man, you guys are keeping on commenting. I can't go away from the chat here. Once teams can manage authentication for students, we can use. That's true. Please put together training to aid the transition from teaching with Zoom to teaching with Teams. That's something that we're working with CPE on. Yep. I did a quick Google search, and over 240,000 educational institutions use Microsoft Teams for remote and online learning. And, take that number, I think, with a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, a lot of, like, my previous institution now uses Teams for remote and online learning. So yeah, I mean, the number of features are pretty much the same between both the platforms.
Any other questions? George has been peppered here.
And you guys have been really nice, by the way. So this is, please don't think that you're like overburdening us or something like that. This is great.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, thank you, George and Tim, for the information, and we look forward to further engagement as we transition.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up on our agenda are examples of service excellence. If you'd like to recognize someone for their service excellence, now would be the time to do it. Anybody have somebody they'd like to recognize, and we'll make sure that they are informed of that recognition, and we share that always with Vice President Miller. I'll go with one, and that is I'd like to recognize our department head, Nancy Sutton, has spearheaded our ABA, American Bar Association approval process. In fact, we are in the midst of our virtual site visit. It began yesterday and continues today, and she has just done an amazing job with putting that all together. So I'd like to recognize Nancy Sutton for her work with the ABA reapproval process for the paralegal program. Anybody else? Going once. Okay. Next item is the president's report. We met with Dr. Miller on October 12th. Anthology adoption was one of the things that we discussed, and kind of timely that George was here today talking about this. We discussed the transition, and what he communicated at that point was we were looking at probably about a next academic year before the transition would occur. So we've just spent a lot of time talking about that. So other things that we discussed, the proposed plagiarism AI complaint process, that's the one that was proposed by Nathan Sasser that would put together a committee and so forth. There has been some, I guess, when that has been presented to the Leadership Council and the powers that be, a little bit of resistance, concerns of it being cumbersome, creating more work that's not needed. And then also, I guess, some concerns about not being compliant with some civil rights laws and so forth. So probably need to dig down on that a little bit more. Other things, the CCA committees are making progress One thing in particular, I think of note, it was obviously a big issue last year. That group the group that includes transitional studies faculty is still in the process of examining probably what will be a move away from what we've had as transitional studies to either co-requisite courses that would be taken along with the core class, or just having no transitional studies program. And I guess this is a trend across the country. So that's sort of where we are. I think Dr. Miller has, there's some statistics that show that there's a level of when people end up in the transitional studies program, that the ability to have them move forward and their success rate is less than getting them right into classes at the college level and working to augment that with tutoring and so forth to get them where they're supposed to be, rather than having them taking classes that aren't for college credit. So we'll see where that goes. And finally, a continuing hot topic that I hear from people about parking. We expressed continued concerns with parking and suggested that additional faculty spaces closer to buildings might be considered now that the lot up there by the Pleasantburg entrance, the new parking lot, and Dr. Miller said he would pass that along for consideration to facilities management. So that's where we are with those. Any questions about, and again, I always invite and I do receive suggestions of things for us to talk to Dr. Miller about. He is very open to us. We don't always get the answers we want, but he's always very open to discuss them, and give at least the position of the administration or reasons why decisions are made. So, so please, if you have things you'd like us to bring up, it's the second Thursday of each month that we meet with him. So if you have anything that you'd like to have addressed, and again, it needs sort of policy level issues, we're happy to do that. All right. Next up on the agenda are committee reports. Start off with our Artificial Intelligence Committee.
Hi. Okay, so the last meeting we had was we talked about, let me think about this, the new the new college-wide policy for AI, and Dr. Miller liked it, approved it, and then it was going to go to Jan, but Jan is out. So we're waiting for news on that. And then I was excited to go to this meeting, but it was really an adoption. It was really like a pitch to adopt a thing called PackBack, for Greenville Tech to adopt a thing called PackBack. And I'll explain it to you. So we were going to do that, and then I was going to have a meeting, but I didn't think it was, I didn't think it was necessary. I think right now, and I'll explain why. I think right now we're getting all the people coming in, and I've had quite a few things from publishing companies and stuff to offer us AI influenced, and I don't know if influence is the right word, but AI tools to help with tutoring, to help with students writing papers and things like that. So what this thing did was, let me see something. It improves, so it's like, another add-on. They want to sell it to us. It improves the potential interactivity of discussion boards, and it improves the mechanical quality of the writing for non-composition courses, which is sort of interesting. But I think what the assumption is that we would, since if you're in English 101 or English 102, you're teaching grammar and sentence, although you really shouldn't be. They should already know it, but that, as we know, doesn't happen. It helps other courses to concentrate on the course content rather than correcting grammatical mistakes. So it does like that kind of stuff. But so does Grammarly. And I don't know the benefits of this particular system. I don't know if they are up to the cost, which it's $60,000 a year. And they would give us a discount. It's like a little tutor that goes along with you when you're writing your essay and responds to things and makes you rubrics and all the kind of stuff that we can do in other capacities, even in Microsoft Word to some degree, but on steroids, I guess. So anyway, $60,000 a year, $30,000, $30,000 the first year for a discount or something, and I think it goes up to $39,000 the second year, and $60,000 keeps going up. So what our recommendation was that if it's going to be something that we would adopt, it would have to be adopted by all the way across the college because it's expensive. Personally, I don't have enough information about other products like this to think that this one is super special. So that's what that's what the AI thing that focus has been a little bit, at least with me and we're waiting for the adoption of that AI policy that we wrote and that you guys approved. But but get ready for a lot of products coming in that are to help us. You know, AI. We've been having a bad reaction to AI, but now they're going to use it to make money from us. Well, they, you know, whichever companies that have adopted it are trying to sell us things now. So that's interesting. I'd love to hear what anybody else has experienced with this kind of thing too. Just interested.
Mimi, I just went to that conference, which was a conference of paralegal educators. And I think there was 4 different sessions that dealt with AI. And a lot of the focus from that conference was how are we going to integrate it into classes? How are we going to teach students how to use it? Because, you know, a lot of discussion that, you know, garbage in, garbage out with anything. And, you know, how do you teach students how to develop good prompts and so forth? So I thought that was interesting. So it's not just this is obviously and not just in academia, but the business world. Law firms are very much like, from my perspective, law firms, and I'm sure other businesses across the spectrum, they're gearing up and getting ready. So we're going to have our students ready to use AI and use it well.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, even ads on TV and on the radio and on the business channel, everything. I mean, it talks about how much not only our students will have to use it in their workplace, but also how they'll how it's changing workplace development. So this particular product, it's like the first one I've reviewed like this, and I don't think it's particularly special or worth the money, but that's my own opinion. Maybe it's better for other schools. I don't know. That was my recommendation, but I'd like to look at some other products, and I don't know if we need the money spent on this thing. I wonder if George, do you know about this thing?
Sorry, I jumped in here to make an offer to you guys, but I will wait for you to finish your conversation. What were you asking, by the way?
Oh,
Sorry.
I just saw you and I thought about you because we had a hackback.
Interesting. It's
yeah,
here.
they came
too,
and wanted to sell us this product, which costs $60,000 a year to help.
I worked with Packback before.
What?
I worked with Packback before.
Oh,
actually,
well, anyway, so there's a lot of companies who I've been being solicited by, just, you know, offering products with AI capabilities to help students, and they wanted to sell us this Packback thing that, you know, goes along with anything students write and helps them, and it's sort of like a tutoring.
Right.
And as
this
well
is the
as
company out of
grammar help
Chicago,
and
right?
things like that. What?
Is this the company out of Chicago? I just want to make sure.
I don't know where they're from. I think so. Okay. So
from what I could tell, this was like 4 or 5 years ago when they first brought out their product. They asked our college to kind of pilot it. And it was very useful to, I think it was the nursing faculty that used it for their particular course. And it was very useful to them at that time, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know how useful it is now, mainly because of the proliferation of other products that kind of sort of help you to do it.
That's what I thought. I thought, how is this that different from, you know, Grammarly and other things that have gone on steroids too, and that are using more and more of these things. So
very nudge-based software, if I recall correctly. And I think what they might be able to do better than most other tools is the fact that they've been doing it inside of coursework for the last 4 or 5 years, right? So they've probably got a really good workflow in place so that it's not as intrusive or hard to use as other products. $60,000 is a chunk of change, though.
Yeah, so they said, you know, it was going to be $30,000 the first year for a discount for Greenville Tech, 39 the second year, 60 the next year. Yeah. But I mean, it's the only thing we've looked at, and as far as, you know, and I was on a team with a variety of people, and I don't know. I think
so
it's
one thing I did hear from them at that time, and what was really appealing to the faculty members, was that they also offered really good instructional design / support / coaching help at the same time, which, you know, you offer an instructor help like that, you know, most instructors will take you up on it because we need all the help we can get, right? Yeah. So if that's a value add along with the AI service, that might be worth it. So you never know.
But we've passed on the recommendation that to maybe do some kind of a trial, you know, with a few classes or something like that. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but it was interesting. And I think it's only the first of this stuff to come to us to offer to help us with, you know, by us giving them a lot of money.
Sure. Hey,
thank you.
Sorry, and I jumped back in mainly, and I didn't want to like eavesdrop on you all or anything like that, but I wanted to jump back in just to make a quick kind of recommendation and offer from Tim and I were talking after the meeting. Is it worth you folks' time, and I'm specifically talking to the folks that are on this call, if we make up a Teams channel that involves y'all and us, OIT leadership, so that all these transitions, your questions about these transitions can be, you know, talked about in that channel. So it's a, you know, basically y'all having access to us, so that those questions are not asked like multiple times by multiple people. Every you know, it's all there in that one channel. Yeah. You can go back and see who's answered what and who's asked what. It allows you folks to get a better idea of where we're coming from when we're pushing these transitions out, but also for us to get an idea of what your needs are so that we're not just trampling over them, you know, trying to implement stuff.
Good. Well, good? Thanks for that offer. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so what I'll go ahead and do is, and I'm gonna see if I can get a list of participants. Is there any way for you folks after you're done to extract a list of participants from this Zoom meeting?
George, I think Liz could share our like mailing list.
Attendance sheet.
Yeah. I can share the contact with you, or if you specifically want folks from the not AI subcommittee. We're not talking about that anymore. I'm sorry. I've caught my son's cold, and I just took a bunch of Dayquil. Now it's starting to kick in, I guess. Yeah, I'll send you the contact for that, and you'll have the full list. And yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea.
Cool. And then folks that feel like they want to stay in the channel, obviously you can stay. But if you don't want to, you can leave as well. So that's up to you. Cool. Thank you.
All right.
I'm jumping back out.
Thanks. Next up, Academic Misconduct Committee report. Mimi, is that you too?
No, I think it's Catherine.
Or Catherine?
Wait, can we circle back to a quick? I know we got a lot to cover, but Philip brought up something in the chat that I think is important to touch on really quick. So apparently there's a Blackboard AI detector
Yeah,
that
there's a
can and
tool
should
that
be reviewed?
Anthology has, but I don't know if it's enabled or available. So it might be something we just have to request through Lee and ask if that's one a tool that's built in. I don't know if it has an additional cost. And it too, if it is something we can look at, because I know I've seen it. They have it on their site.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense because we're using Blackboard, and if it could be checking things like discussion, because I don't know about y'all, but it's discussion boards where they do it the most. I don't know why. They really hate discussion board, which is supposed to be the most interactive. But yeah, if that's something that exists and could be like across the board checking things, then that seems like a logical response to me. But yeah, Mimi, if we can put that on the list of things to investigate.
Blackboard AI detector. That seems
Yeah,
very
that's-
good
that's-
because
I
I
guess we
hate
reach out to
extra
Lee.
stuff.
That's the tool name they list.
And I guess that goes along with academic misconduct. That was not out of place.
You know, John, let me, academic misconduct merged with the AI thing, I
Okay.
think.
All
So
right.
when we
Okay.
did some stuff around that, so those two are the same, and I guess. So let's just get rid of the academic misconduct for right
Sure.
now, I think, unless anyone has any reservations about that.
Okay. And then next up, adjunct support.
Okay, so before I give a brief update on what we are doing, I really want to just kind of quickly remind everybody kind of what the purpose and what the goals are for this committee. And unfortunately, I'm going to read our kind of purpose statement just so that I can get everything correctly. So just want to let everybody know that the purpose of this committee is to work with faculty and staff across the campuses to provide opportunities for all adjunct faculty to increase engagement in college-wide activities, programs, and news, as well as to continue to create healthy connections with fellow staff members through interpersonal and professional engagement. And so in order for us to achieve these goals, our committee understands, would like to gain an understanding of what current adjunct faculty members experience, and then also allow feedback, which will serve as the foundation of us kind of creating this kind of across the board connection. And so what we're doing now, we put a pause on it until this semester. And so what we're doing now is we are composing a survey of questions. And so we're meeting directly. We met last month, and we're meeting directly after this meeting today to formalize the survey questions that we're going to be sending out to all adjunct faculty. And in order to do that, though, in order to have the survey sent out, we're going to have to send them to Dr. Larry Miller, who is working with us very well, so that we can get this taken care of. So that is my brief update on the committee.
Great, thank you. Safety committee.
I don't have any updates, but I did want to ask the group, because I know the last time I contacted, I'm blanking on her name, but about the updates to the buildings, the key card access, they had acted like that was going to happen pretty quickly. And so I was curious if anybody in our meeting is in a building that the security is being updated into the key card. Okay.
Nobody yet?
Yeah, I was about to say, I have a feeling it's not happening yet, but I will reach back out and see what's going on with that. I was told that we were on schedule, but I don't know what the schedule is. So.
Good. All right. Course inclusivity and accessibility.
Hi, yes. So let's see, let me pull up my notes here. So there was a PD session on student accommodations that was offered by the CPE, and it was presented by Janet Barnes, which, we all heard from Janet earlier. I thought we had pretty good attendance, and it was a very informative session, even if you feel like, even if you've been here a long time and you feel like, you know it all already, there's definitely some things that I wasn't aware of. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the Zoom so that if anybody wants to see it, they can. Or another thing we wanted to ask is, I haven't talked about this with Janet yet, so I don't know, she may not want to, but a subcommittee, when we met, we kicked around the idea, if Jana would be able to, maybe in the spring, if we've got a lull in the programming, if y'all would be interested in having just like a 30-minute or less version, or a chance to ask questions or that kind of a thing. Is that something y'all would be interested in, is having for a speaker at some point? Or do we feel like, no, we'll just watch the Zoom and call it a day?
I think it's good, but
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put it on the agenda. I mean, yeah, something like a 20-minute tops kind of thing. Like I said, there were definitely some things in there that I wasn't aware of. And I've been here 15 years, so it just goes to show. And so y'all already heard about the SDS restructuring. And one of the things I wanted to ask them about was getting a link to the information about the buddy program put in Concourse. And that was easy because we asked and they just said, yeah, sure, by spring. So we can check that off. Y'all had inquired about department or maybe division specific disability simulators, because there was that one that happened on the 2nd, but we didn't really find out about it until the Friday before. So I'm not sure how good the attendance was for that, but we'd already kind of heard a lot from them in this meeting, so I didn't want to tack that question on and put them on the spot. But we will reach out to them about it and see if that's something they can do. And then we had I met with Amber Morgan from Intern 360 and Jana and Jill Walker about, we had talked last time about the golf cart transportation. We had a meeting about that yesterday afternoon. It's kind of in a holding pattern right now. And it turns out it's a lot more complicated than we had realized. And so I'm just going to have to ask y'all if we can put a pin in that for a second, so I can review what we found out with the subcommittee, since we had already met before that meeting happened. That's just how it worked out. I'd like to kind of kick that around with them a little bit first, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting, if y'all are okay with putting a pin in that. Because yeah, like I said, it's pretty complicated, and we've already covered a lot today. So we haven't given up, but it's complicated. So that's where we are at. And did I forget anything? Anybody from the subcommittee? No? Okay. Thanks. That's it.
All right. Remote work. That's me. And I think it's been me alone meeting with myself. If anybody would like to join this, and I'll throw this out, and I think there might be an opportunity here for the summer, if we could, you take baby steps in just a couple of conversations with Dr. Miller. I get the impression that there could be, no promises, a possibility for there to be some receptiveness to faculty working up to full time in the summertime remotely, if they're teaching all online classes. It seems a little unnecessary to have somebody sitting in their classrooms for a particular amount of time if all of their classes are online, and that students are not, the chances are going to have in-person students, and not like that you couldn't meet with a student in person if they needed to, but there could be, I think, opportunities, and again, a baby step towards that being an opportunity. You make one step at a time. So if anybody be interested in collaborating with me on a proposal, shoot me an email or put something in the chat, and we'll see if anybody's got any kind of question about that. But that's I think that's a potential opportunity, and I think one reason is that in some departments, having enough faculty for the summer can be challenging. So you might be solving a problem. So, all right. any, I haven't been here so I didn't hear, I don't know that we have anything holding over in old business, Liz
Wait,
or me.
I'm sorry, we have one more subcommittee, the LibGuide subcommittee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're okay. And
Go ahead.
does anybody?
Yeah, so
Go ahead,
that's
Ashley.
me. So we have met. It's me and Melissa Hester and Stephen Burris and Michelle Rubino, of course, and we met last week. So we're just in the process of dividing and conquering and doing a significant overhaul update, making sure that everything's right within the faculty LibGuide, and then from there we plan to have that done before fall or before winter break, and then from there we're just going to decide on an as needed basis when when updates need to be made, when we should be checking things, how often to make those updates, things like that. So we're moving along.
All right. Thank you. And then in terms of new business, I did have one person contact me for something to bring up. A faculty member offered this that to kind of offer up for discussion is whether there is and should there be or should we propose some sort of means by which faculty can provide feedback on their supervisors, their department heads, their program directors. Obviously, we have our faculty, students give us evaluations. We have our FPMS, so we are getting evaluated by our supervisors and so forth. Should there also be and maybe something more robust and more specific than just general satisfaction surveys? Should there be something more specific in terms of faculty feedback on supervisor performance? So that's something that was thrown out there. Any thoughts on that? Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I think I'm confused. So we're talking about having kind of a reverse order evaluation where we evaluate our supervisors?
Yes.
Oh.
Some feedback, I guess, it could be I don't know that it would take the form of like student evals that can be somewhat anonymous, or I am just I got this request and a request to bring it up to Senate, and so I wanted to throw that out there. Yeah, so Phil's comment, would it be allowed, or would it be, would they take evals and make any kind of changes? I don't know. They definitely seem to like to send out satisfaction surveys. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that, Melissa? I see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking there's the chain of command. I mean, we can always go to our supervisor above whoever, like if I wanted to say something about my supervisor, I would go above him and complain. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking. If a faculty member isn't happy with the performance of their supervisor, they would go to their dean or whoever's in between that person. And yeah, that's my thought. I mean, maybe this person doesn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah. Philip? Yeah.
In an ideal world, that's what you do, right? In a Greenville Tech world, supervisors speak to their supervisors, and nothing's anonymous, and that can create some blowback, unfortunately. I've seen it happen. So yeah, satisfaction surveys for HR are great, but I would like to see some kind of eval system that is reciprocated back up, but it has to be anonymous, and obviously there's going to be outliers who are just going to put everyone on blast notice. But those aside, there's legitimate things that people always say, but they're not going to say it out loud because they don't need additional problems should their name come to the forefront. It's different if it was a Title VII or Title IX or something major. That's different when you go to your supervisor. But you know, so sometimes the supervisor is Larry Miller. So it's not as simple as that statement would be.
Yeah, and I think this faculty member, and again, I want to keep in the scope of what we're, we want to keep it with faculty. Though I guess are deans still considered are they still considered faculty?
I think that switched here recently with all the changes, reorg, that they are no longer faculty.
Yeah, I knew that. Surprisingly, I knew at least a couple of years ago. I was surprised to find that they were considered still faculty. So that has changed. But yeah. So Angela, I know. Did you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was going to say something along the lines of what Philip was saying, but I understand what you're saying because we used to do that in the industry. But in the industry, there's so many of us. And so if every other year, I think it was, they would do a whole plant survey. And then it drills down into, how's the plant doing? And then it'll ask if you're in MN, how are the managers doing there? Well, there's 5 MN managers, okay, and they're lumped all together. But if you were to give me a survey, and Vincent's my boss, and he only has 4 of us reporting to him, it just can't be anonymous because he could go through those 4 and say, if he wanted to, not that Vincent's a great boss, so I doubt whether he would do that. But the point is, he would be able to, and it's just not going to be anonymous. I feel like if you could do it in a way that it would be anonymous, fine. But I don't know if most people here know how I feel about reviews or the student reviews and all of this. I just think that they're all outliers because every year I only get 2 people taken, and one person made an A, one person made an F. That they're both outliers. So I never know how well I'm doing because only the people take them that really like me or really hate me. So I never know how to improve.
Yeah, I think
I was going to say the same thing, Angela. And also the questions are really outdated and sometimes not really, we get asked in the English department how effectively we use lab equipment. And they'll be like, very effectively, like, okay. Or there's questions about like, do the instructors, get papers graded within a week? But our policy as a department is 2 weeks. And they'll say, yes, we do, even though we don't. So the questions themselves too are not terribly indicative of anything that's actually happening in classes. So I just want to throw that in. Philip, sorry to jump in front of you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I agree. Usually for student evals, if this were very similar, you're right. If you can't give them some kind of, positive credit or something for the class, they don't want to do it. And you're right. You usually get the ones that love you and hate you and very little, but they go by those evals for a lot of things now. They're starting to say they're going to look at evals more and more. So I don't know how to have all the class do something short of limiting them to do like an exam or something. Just they have to do it first. But as far as what we were talking about with supervisors, it brings up a good point because I have a larger department, so I know my evals are going to be all over the place because as a manager, you have to make tough decisions that sometimes people don't agree with. So I expect that. But I think as a department and division, I think if we were ever to do surveys, the survey would have to really encompass the VP's office and the associate VPs, the deans and department heads. And it would have to be in a way where even if you're in a department of 2 or 3, you can share yourself and it won't identify you as a single department person. It's just someone within the school of nursing or the school of business or the school of engineering or whatever the name, I forget all the names. I think if we could make it at least that nebulous, there's probably a chance you can get some decent survey feedback. But if it gets all down to the department or direct supervisor, I think that's problematic. So maybe we could, in mine, we can share our divisional concerns. That might bleed into the department, but that's okay because the deans should be able to handle the departments that they manage. Or if it's dean level, then Larry or Jan or someone in the VP's office could address that as well, without worried about being able to, you know, systematically narrow down to who said something.
Yeah. I think there's something, and I can't remember, kind of jumping off of what I think, I don't know, it was Melissa talking about the chain of command, and it's not so much that, but we're all professionals, and at some point or another, we shouldn't shrink from, if we've got some constructive criticism of a supervisor, that we would shrink from sharing that, and I guess if we're in a situation where that can't happen, I guess that there may be a larger problem. But I know my experiences, I've not felt that way where I couldn't share. And again, I don't always get the answer I want. I'm always voting for less meetings and things like that. It doesn't always happen, but yeah, I'll throw that out. But if that's, I don't want to belabor it, but if we can bring this up in old business. We have some time to think about it, maybe think about how it might look, and if we'd want to move forward with it. And I can bring that up, or we can bring that up during old business next time when we have a chance to think through what that might look like, what these surveys or evaluations might look like. Anything else that anyone else would like to bring up in new business? Going once, maybe. Yep.
I would, but I think maybe we'll just have to table it, but, so I wanted to talk about the the concourse syllabus. And I'm just curious as to how everybody is using it, and if it's easy, and if it's because we used to have, we were told that we used to have our own syllabi. They had, a syllabus, and then we had a course calendar as part of that. And then we moved to where we separated the information for the college and the information for our specific course. Now, I still have it like that, but now we also have to do it in concourse, which it's like, I think it's 26 pages long. So to get to the course schedule or plan calendar, they have to scroll through pages and pages. So I make sure they have the calendar on a separate thing. But having things in all these different places, or even 2 different places, that's what starts to make things break down and have mistakes happen. Also, I think that the concourse syllabus is cumbersome, huge, and and like time consuming, but busy work, things that were already there, and putting them in 2 places. Each little box, has to be filled. It's just, I've noticed this, and a lot of other people in my department have noticed it. I don't know what's going on across the college as far as how people feel about the concourse syllabus, but I did write a letter to Dr. Miller about it, because I actually knew that he had problems with it, trying to find something in it. I won't get into all that, but I wrote him a letter, and then I haven't heard back. However, I think what he's going to do is address it in our meeting that we have, because I think it's a touchy subject in a way, because they want to have it, but I don't know what anybody else thinks about it. I'd be curious to hear.
I agree, Mimi, and I think I got that impression from Dr. Miller. When he brought it up sort of as an aside, he had to go into as part of an investigation, I guess, had to go in and looked at the syllabus, and it's sometimes these are good things, because I don't think he was aware. He's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how much information. And I know students are probably, ended up not focusing on what they need to focus on because they're overwhelmed. If it's 26 pages, a lot of that's just going to be lost, when we want them to focus in on, here's the important class policies and the schedule for the class or whatever it may be, it gets lost in just a multitude of things that must be in there. So
I don't like the idea. I've always hear people saying, like, I don't know, superiors or whatever, but oh, we have to have it like this. Well, I've been here for 18 years too. We've had to have it like something so many times in a different way. I am rebelling against it, but I was curious to what everybody else thought. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that it's set up. However, it is very cumbersome of a document. And so what I tend to do is I highlight specific areas with my students, whether it's in an introduction announcement of be sure you read these specific areas. If you print anything off, be sure you print the schedule, just to ensure that they're at least finding it. But with the quality matters that we're moving into, I know we go through APR in 2025, so we're already starting that process of reorganizing and setting up our courses specific to the new quality matters. And so part of that process is getting everything into Concourse syllabus and not having those separate documents. They only want it in in Concourse. So having those separate documents is not looked at highly, by the college or the ones making the decisions. And the other thing, like with course policies, if our course policy, our department policy is a little bit different. Like we have a specific attendance policy in regards to synchronous classes that we just added this semester. I've highlighted that in my syllabus, and then I also highlighted in my announcements because, again, they don't want us to have separate documents. And so it's part of our quiz that we offer to ensure that they've read that new policy of ensuring that they're following the attendance, that policy that we have for synchronous versus what the college says for the 14-day absences. So just my 2 cents. I like it. However, I feel like there are changes that need to be made.
Yeah. Philip?
I like Concourse for the centralization of information to go out. My issue I have a few issues. One of them speaking. My issues are they limit who can edit them. I have to edit all the syllabi for my department. We used to have that dean's admins and they got taken off that duty. So now it has to funnel through me, which is a time suck. But my bigger issue is when I use syllabi, I use it to see what is being taught in the course, by what unit, what book, what content, what learning objectives. All this other stuff is catalog stuff that they could easily point to a permanent link catalog for that student year, the 2019 catalog, 2020 catalog, and so on and so forth. My issue is when I look at transfer credits from other colleges and I say, I want to see your syllabus, I don't see 15 pages of all the little details that are already in the catalog, that are already on the website. I just want to see what are their learning outcomes, what books are they using, what units are they reviewing, not even due dates. I don't care. I look at a syllabus for someone coming to my department. I don't care when it was due in 2019. I care about what unit they were doing and what exam or assignments they may have done. That's it. So I think the syllabus it's become a bloated document where a lot of these things, pass, non-pass, FERPA rules, testing center, all this stuff could be easily just redirected to a catalog that's permanently stored and crunch up all that space so we can have college policy on what matters, attendance, maybe, departmental policies, like I put all my in for no late assignments, no tests, no exams. And if there's divisional policies and something special for the course, but if we could if you ever look at a syllabus, about 2/3 of it is bloat that the catalog already would tell you. You could just go to it. And they already have like 30 hyperlinks in the thing. So I think if they could just centralize their course catalogs by year, they wouldn't have to bloat out all that stuff. Anyway, that's my 18 cents.
Yeah, and I wonder whether this might be a topic, and I don't think this would be a long-lasting subcommittee, but perhaps, and we could make this part of our old business to bring up next time is whether we might want to form a subcommittee just to create some suggestions about syllabi and what they should be, because Philip, to your point, and I think Dr. Miller's, I think, had sort of the same feeling that you had. Things that are on a syllabi, there shouldn't be that, things that are just in the catalog. And we used, and that you could just, we potentially could just have links to those things, and the resources about, whatever it happens to be, student disability services, all of these things that all students have to read through that might not be relevant. And it may be better to have kind of a list of, okay, I can click on that, find it easily. You've been nominated, Philip, to be the spokesperson by Liz. But I'll put that down as a piece of old business that we can bring up next week or next month to discuss whether, again, like I said, I think it would be a subcommittee that wouldn't have to, that wouldn't last a long time, but at least we could get a group together to collaborate on some suggestions. Because I know, I don't know about all of you, but when I got a syllabus, when I was in college many years ago, it was like 1 or 2 pages and that was it. And you got the information. It wasn't, didn't have to parse through 26 pages of a lot of stuff that wasn't really relevant to you. So, all right. Any other new business? All right. Well, hearing none, and we're almost to 11 o'clock, so I'm going to bang our gavel and bring our meeting to a close. I appreciate everybody's attendance, some great questions and some great information, some great questions, and we will see you all in December. It's hard to believe that we're almost through the end of fall semester. And yeah, Phil, before we go, yeah, go ahead.
We're having our subcommittee right after. Lavanda's having our subcommittee meeting for adjunct support. Is that a separate Zoom link, or do you want us to stay on this one?
No, it's in the email. I sent the email early this week. Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, Mimi.
Are we I might be confused. Are we supposed to wait here for George? Some people, or didn't he say we were going to talk about?
No, I think you were just, Liz is going to share the contact list so he can create. So I guess he will make us all part of a team. I guess part of a Teams group that would allow faculty senate, I guess, to communicate about these technology issues that we're discussing today. Liz, is that what you understood? I think that's what I understood. Oh, we have so Liz.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, too many things going on. Chats and such. Yes, that is what I understood, and that is what I will do. And good news, Philip said he would be the spokesperson for our temporary concourse syllabus.
Cool. I'll go. I want to be on that.
It's the power of naming names. All right, Philip, it's all on you, buddy. You can do it.
All right. Well,
all right, everybody. I put the attendance in one last time if anybody needs it. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Good weekend.
Bye.